are here to show you a video of microeconomics on topic 2 for demand and supply. Please enjoy!
Hello guys, today I will explain you about a demand. Demand is referred to the entire relationship between the price of the good and the quantity demands of the goods. If you demand something, then it means you want it, you can afford it, and you plan to buy it. The quantity demanded is the amount of goods and service that consumer plans to buy during a given time period at a particular price. It is measured as the amount per unit of time. For example, 1 cup per day at 1 ringgit 50 cents, 1 kilo per week and at 3 ringgit. Law of demand. In the law of demand, when the price goes up, it means the quantity demands goes down, and when the price goes down, the quantity of demand is going up.
In economy, demand is explained as function of price. It means if a price increase, the demand of the product is decreased. For example, like this diagram, a graph.
Let's say price of a particular product increase from P1 to P2. The curve say that the quantity demand decrease from Q1 to Q2. In less quantity is demanded by people. Next, if a price decrease from P1 to P3, the curve say that the quantity of goods demanded increase from Q1 to Q3. In more quantity is demanded by the people. This is an ideal curve to explain the law of demand. We state that the quantity purchased vary inversely with time.
Next, a change in the quantity demand. Change in quantity demand is referred to the response of consumer to change in the price of the commodities. In a change in demand refer to the increase or the decrease in demand brought about by a change in condition of non-price determinant. It involves a shift in the demand curve. For example, like this diagram, I will show you how the change in demand increase or decrease. Factor of bring change in demand. Firstly is the price of related good, income, expected future price, population and preference.
Hello, I'm going to explain what is supply. Literally, supply is the stock or amount of something that are supplied and available to be used. In economic terms, the word supply refers to the entire relationship between the quantity supplied and the price of a good. Now we have known what is supply mean. Then, what is the law of supply? So the law of supply is the fundamental principle of economic theory. It states that other things remain the same. The higher the price of a good, the greater the quantity supplied. when the price of a good is low, then the smaller the quantity supplied. Supply is not static, it can be changed. When other factor influences the selling plan other than the price of the good, there is a change in the quantity supplied. So, in the graph of the supply, when the supply decreases, the shift will curve to leftward. And when there is increases, the shift will move rightward.
Okay everyone, now we move to 5 factors that affect or bring changes in supply. But before that, what is supply? Supply is a total amount of specific goods or service that available for consumer. Okay, for the first factor, which is the price of resources that used to produce the goods. Here we take example, for example, cars. To build a cars, we need a steel. But how the price of steel can affect or bring the changes in the total amount of the car that will be produced in a period of time? Okay, I will explain it by using this graph. Let me see, if the price of the steel is 100 ringgit, so we can produce the higher quantity of the car, for example 200 units. But if the price of the steel increase into 300 ringgit, so the total amount of the car that can be produced in this period is decreased into 100 units. Okay, for the second factor, which is the price of related good produced. So here we take example chicken and fish. If the price of the chicken increase and the price of the fish decrease, are we willing to buy the chicken? Of course not. Okay, we will choose or buy a fish as our substitute goods. Okay, for the third factor, which is expected future price. For example, we as a supplier, we expect that the goods will increase next month. So in this month, we will produce low of a supply, so we can bring it to next month, so we will get a higher price with higher profits. For the next factor is the number of the suppliers. How can the number of the supplier bring a change in supply? Okay, for example, if there are only one suppliers that produce the goods, so the quantity of the supply are limited. Okay, but if the number of the supplier increase into 3 suppliers, so the quantity of the supply that will be produced also increase. Okay, for the last factor is the technology. Without technology, it is impossible to us to produce a supply. But with the high technology, we can produce and increase the amount of the supply.
So, equilibrium. Equilibrium in terms of economy, it means that when the market price has reached a level at which the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied are both equal. That's what market equilibrium means. So as we all know, buyers and sellers, they react to price changes. When the price change, so let's take this graph as example. So imagine that this graph is the selling of chicken. So as we all know, in market equilibrium, to achieve market equilibrium, the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied will intersect. So here, so this is the graph. As you all can see, this is the quantity demanded, and then this one is the supply, So the intersection between both of demanded and the supply, for example, at the price of 7 ringgit and 50 cent per kilo for the price of a chicken, and then the quantity is 25. So as you all can see that when the price reach to a certain level, so both of these quantity demanded and quantity supplied will be equal.
Yes, that's it. So everyone just heard about market equilibrium. And what happens if there is a surplus and a shortage? So let's find about it. Surplus happen where a given price, the quantity of supply is higher than the quantity of demand. At this point, we can see the quantity of supply is 30, while for the quantity of demand at this point is just 10. In order to reach the market equilibrium at this point, the price of the product should be fall down from 8 to 6. While for shortage happen when at a given price, the quantity of demand is higher than the quantity of supply. We can see at this point. This is the point for quantity of demand is higher at point 30, while the quantity of supply at this point is just at 10. So in order to reach the equilibrium point, the price should be rise up from 3 ringgit to 6 ringgit. Next, we will see the increase in demand and supply. Alright, for this graph, we can see that higher demand at this point will lead to higher equilibrium price, which is from P0 to P1, and also will lead to higher equilibrium quantity, which is from Q0 to Q1. While for the supply, the higher supply will lead to higher equilibrium quantity, which is from Q0 to Q1, but it will lead to lower equilibrium price, which is from PO fall to P1. Lastly, it's about decrease in demand and supply. Okay, for this graph, we can see that the lower of demand will lead to the lower of the equilibrium price. It also will lead to the lower equilibrium quantity from Q0 to Q1. And for supply, the lower the supply will lead to the lower equilibrium quantity, which is from Q0 to Q1, but it will rise up the equilibrium price from PO to P1.